You know that good delegation is critical to improving your effectiveness within your organization, especially if you're a manager. But how do you successfully transfer the things that you were doing or the things that you are still responsible for to other people and still get good results? Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we make operational excellence practical. And today we'll be talking about, how do you not really have to sweat, especially as a manager, when you delegate. This, of course, goes for any specialist, any manager, wherever in the line who is delegating things. But quite honestly, it even goes for any shop floor function when you want to give a bit of work to somebody else that is not in your job description, but in theirs, but you are interested in the results. That is a big part of delegation, right? Think of that. Basically, you are letting other people do a part of work that you are still interested in. Now, when you do that in the management line, it's basically your function as well. I mean, management is delegation. Really get that in your understanding. You start with just one person, or craftsman, and they do everything. But then as soon as you start working together with a couple of people, then there is more efficiency in making one of them specifically good in, I don't know, the admin tasks, or one specifically good in the sales tasks, and the rest in the production tasks. And as soon as you start to divide up those tasks a bit, you have to pass work to one another. Then you're already slightly delegating, and as soon as you hit actual management layers, basically what you get is that somebody who really knows that process, but also how to organize that process effectively, starts managing others who have to actually do that process. So what do you get in, especially early management, what do you get in delegation in general, is that I often see this, what if my people mess it up, right? Well, what if they just get a very bad product? It will reflect poorly on me as well. So how can I sort of help them get along? And that luckily is the first very important part. So when we are talking about effective delegation, the first mindset to get in is you now become the coach, right? You have to make sure that you are positive. So you want to encourage, support, help the person now doing that task. And now, what is the best way to think about? How can we get that, especially the feedback part I'll be getting to, about delegation set up nicely? Think about it went wrong. Now what happens? Right? Especially if the person is coming, something went wrong, or they just made a decision, or they ran with your task and it turned out poorly. This is where it's easiest to spot a key part about delegation feedback. It is more general, you do it always, but think about what was the idea, right? At the moment that they made the decisions, what were they thinking? Were those the correct thoughts? So get that one in there. What was the intent? And you need to discuss with the knowledge that you had at that moment, right? When you made this choice, when you started the actions, did you at that moment make the correct choices? Did you at that moment make realistic assumptions? That is how you grow a team in delegation, in working together as a team. So especially if you used to be, let's say, a very direct shop floor manager, now you grow a bit more into the team, and the team expands, the whole organization expands a bit, and you get other sort of frontline managers in your team. This is always a typical moment when you have to go from your previous, because basically before that you were sort of the frontline manager, right? You were quite a practical manager. You have to go towards managing others who also make management decisions, who also decide for your operators, your maintenance staff, your logistics staff, your whatever shop floor personnel, right? The colleagues doing most of the operational work. And you need to make the tough calls. You need to make the priorities, the decisions on what to do, what not to do, how to solve a certain mess you got yourself in. Very often, those situations, they still blow up. right? It's already a bad situation to be in. When something goes wrong, when there is a breakdown on a machine, when there is a big product defect, you have to block the whole thing. What are you going to do? Are you going to extend the run because you need to make the volumes? Are you going to fully stop the run to find the problems? What's going to happen with the pressure from all sides, with the materials that are on the shop floor? There's a whole bunch of things that you need to manage. And often the people on the line are then looking at the first line managers, the specialists maybe in your operational team. And it's almost impossible to make really good choices there. Right? In its basics, you need to maintain control, need to not let it go into chaos, and just take the best sort of risk averting choices and organize the workflow. At that point, you need to make a whole bunch of decisions. Those decisions, that is the stuff that as a leader, as a formal manager or more of an informal leader within a management team, I want to challenge you, focus on those. Have your feedback discussions on what was the intent, what were you trying to do, and discuss whether that is something that the team agrees to or not. Right? You can discuss about, we have to have more product come out. Or you can discuss about, oh, now the machine is totally out of its settings. Now we need to do a full reboot. Those are all results. At the moment that you made that choice, would we have made the same choice? That one. That is the key question. When we, or even pull it towards yourself, when I, as your manager, operational manager, would have been in your shoes with your info at that moment, which actions would I have taken? Would I have made the same choices you have? Now, this is very difficult because now you know already in hindsight what was the problem, what's going to happen, but that's why you need to train this thing back and then discuss. Because this informs you about next time, right? Next time, what would I like you to do? What would I like you to check? What are the priorities for our organization or directly for this operation? Whatever, right? So make sure that you really get that right. These were the things that went right. These were the things that you could have done a little bit different. And that increases what you will do as a decision next time. And it has that double meaning, right? You have the feedback on, how good were your decisions at the moment? And it's an honest feedback because it is about the intentions of the people in your team. But also, that feedback, of course, feeds in to their decisions next time, not just to improve their decisions, but think of the confidence boost this will give, right? You want to work together as a team. You want to delegate, not just menial tasks. You want to delegate actual work, actual decision making as well. So you don't want to be stressing out over it. You calibrate together with your team through feedback. They don't only get better, they get more trust. Trust from your side, but also trust from their own side, right? They trust more in that their own choices and their own actions are in line with what the team wants, what their manager, you, would like them to do. What is in the company priority, the company culture, your team's mutual decision making. That creates independent actors. That is true delegation, right? Because now you don't give somebody a task, you give them responsibility. We did this video on situational leadership, right? And maybe you know it from other sources as well, but there is this task maturity. And if you want to go from somebody who you can only just give direct tasks, very direct steering, this is exactly what you need to do, which order and when I want it, and you want to go to that state of, I can give you a topic, I can give you a sphere of responsibility, make sure you give the feedback on the ideas and on the decisions. And that way you get a team that thinks alike. Others in your team will also benefit from this, right? If you do this in a team setting, right? You can do this one-on-one, but think of doing it in a team setting as well, because others in your team can have the same discussion. What would I have done in that situation? What do we want to do? How can we learn from each other, the good things and the poor things? What should you have really checked but also which parts of your action were really good and are critical that others also copy. Now, how do you set it up? Well, I gave a bit of a hint on that already. When we check the calendar, right, I would say, especially if you are a manager, make sure that you have frequent chats with your team members one-on-one, right? And this here, it can be, every second Tuesday, I have a meeting with each of the people in my team. And because I set it up so that they sort of rotate a bit, if you've got 6 people in your team, you need to speak to 3 every week. If you, by the way, and this happens quite a bit in industry, work in a shift pattern, and there's a couple of shift leaders, team leaders in your team that also go around in this shift pattern, maybe you should do once every 3 weeks if you've got 3 shifts, or set up a system that fits into the shift pattern, right? There is good benefit in that. But if you're not really tied to this scheduling, usually the ideal frequency is once every 2 weeks. Once a week is so often that it'll become just a working session. You will also feel that you can skip them. So yes, there is merit to every week, for sure, but with the agendas I see for most managers to really have a talk about feedback on ideas, difficulty with your project, what is outstanding, what do I expect back from you, every other week tends to work fine, tends to work better. But also, once every so many times, so preferably weekly, you have a full team meeting. Right? So you get the whole team together. If, again, you work in shift patterns, that manager working the night shift, please don't let them come back for this. That is just unrealistic. So somebody will not be there every week, but because they also have this rotating schedule, it'll be fine again in the end. But have the whole team together. Now, when you have the whole team together, you will discuss all kinds of group topics, right? That meeting should not only be about the feedback. But again, that challenge to you, if you are a manager yourself, or if you are the CI specialist in a management team, in an operations team, in a production team, whatever, right? If you have this group of support and line management together, challenge the group, yourself and the manager, challenge yourself to discuss at least one decision, preferably 2, because then you don't pick on just one person, so to say. What was the outcome? But then discuss what were the assumptions, what were the choices, would we have made those same choices, what would we like to do differently, and now that we know the things that happened, but also the choices we made, do we need to change anything in our systems? Have those full-time meetings as well, and make it part of your regular team meetings. Your weekly performance meeting, for instance, can easily also have a part on that. Now then, a bit on a side note, but really in the delegation part, just a thought about action lists. And let me know in the comments, what part of action list, would you like me to do a video on action list practices and how it really works? No, I would love to hear ideas from you on that. But one of the parts, also super important for delegation. Remember that I said delegation is when you are still interested in the result. So when you are still interested in the result and you hand the task over to somebody else, write it down for yourself as well. Of course they have to manage their own work. Of course they should come back to you with the product. Of course they should be doing the stuff that they promised. But, you're interested in the result, so you write down, Joe will do this and this and come back in 2 weeks. Right? Anna will take up this topic and do a monthly report. Then, in your individual meetings with them, you have that list of which are the things I expected from you. Use that method because it'll help you so much to delegate a task that you are still very interested in the result and you still keep it on your radar. Because I know it's not really about the feedback part, but about the delegation part. If you hand over a task to somebody else, it sort of feels like letting go control. Write down who's going to do that task when they're reporting back to you and make sure you check up with them either at the date when they promise to deliver it, or just in your bi-weeklies as a sort of a backstop of, oh, how's your progress on those things? Am I still getting this on time? That was supposed to be handed over 2 days ago. What happened? That way you will not lose any extra sleep over tasks that you hand over to other people. But the main message of today is the feedback part in delegation. Do not feedback so much on the result. Feedback on the ideas, on the priorities, the decision making, the assumptions that were taken before the actions. And then be supportive on how people can grow in their roles and in that responsibility. That way, you will build up a team that trusts each other to make the same decisions. That is a huge part of a good, trustful team culture. Now, I hope that gave you a great idea for better feedback on the delegated tasks and on people's responsibilities within your team, or maybe with your manager. Propose this to your manager as well. You don't have to only do this with your subordinates. You can manage your own boss as well. Great book, by the way, How to Manage Your Boss. It's okay to manage your boss. That is a great book as well. But if you like this, don't forget to hit that like button. How do you sort of track your own actions? How do you track actions in a meeting is a great subject for you, and you would like a video on that, let me know, right? Let me know in the comments what are the topics you are struggling with, because I want to make videos for you. With that, I leave you, hopefully, to a much more effective delegation. And as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.